welcome back to AM Live on TSPN, and I'm here with Karl Knobelauch.
Good morning.
Hi, good to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We were just chatting up. We could have just talked all day, huh? Off camera. But it's good to have you. You are the president of the Preston Castle Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you have some big news, I hear.
Something that the foundation, has been working towards since 1996, when the nonprofit foundation was first incorporated with the state of California. We have obtained ownership of the castle, the 12 acres it sits on, and the 4 surrounding buildings.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Labor of love, that's been, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we had a lease from a 55-year lease from the state of California prior to this, but that was somewhat limiting. It still enabled us to raise funds and do fundraisers and so on to preserve and rehabilitate the Preston Castle, but it closed us out of a lot of things. There's a lot of historic preservation grants out there that are not available to. One of the requirements is that you not be owned by the government.
Okay.
And even though we had a lease, the bottom line was the property and the castle were still owned by the state of California.
Right.
Well, no longer. The nonprofit foundation now actually owns the Preston Castle and the 12 acres.
Great. So that's going to free up a lot of opportunity for grants.
Yes.
And just freedom in itself.
Developers, grants, whatever, to try and restore, rehabilitate the Preston Castle.
That's wonderful. So you've been involved for about 6 years.
Yes.
So where's your passion? I mean, have you always been drawn to the castle? How'd you get involved?
Well, I can see it from my house.
Okay.
I live about a mile and a half out of town, and from my house you can see the castle sitting there on top of the hill. And I had been going in the castle periodically since 1981 when I came to work up here, because back in the 80s the castle was closed. The castle closed completely by the state in 1960, and it had fallen already into a pretty significant state of disrepair.
Yeah.
Well, the youth from local and from Sacramento would come up and break into the castle and run all around in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the staff at the current, which is now closed, but then it was open, Preston School of Industry, would hear them laughing and screaming up in there and see the lights, the flashlights and candles and stuff. They would call the Ione Police, and the Ione Police would go up there. Well, you can imagine searching a 47,000 square foot, 5-story building, trying to get the kids out before they hurt themselves, because there were already at that point places where the floors had collapsed through, and you could, if you ran in the wrong room, you could be injured or whatever. So the Ione Police is only one officer, so they would call the sheriff's office. I was the watch commander at the sheriff's office, and so I would take 2 or 3 deputies and go down and help the Ione Police get all the kids out of the building so they didn't get hurt.
Those darn kids.
So, I got to see the castle, firsthand close up as far back as the 80s, and then when I retired, the wife and I said, it would be fun to help out the foundation. We'll go up and volunteer as tour guides, docents on the tour days. And we did that for a while, and the next thing I knew, I was the vice president of the organization, and a couple of years later, I ended up the president of the organization. It's like, how did this happen?
That happens, yes. It's like, oh, volunteer. Come on, we got a lot of work for you to do.
Yes, exactly.
That's good, that's good. Well, that's wonderful. So can you tell us if the castle's really haunted?
I used to say is that just because the ghosts don't talk to me doesn't mean they're not talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then I had one experience where I was standing out in front of the castle talking to one of the other tour guides in the middle of the summer, and it was movie night. So everybody was out on the back patio watching one of the movies that was filmed at the castle.
Yeah, is this the most recent one?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were standing out front talking. There was virtually no one else out in front of the castle. We were just out there to kind of make sure that anybody that came up to the front was behaving themselves. And we were talking, and behind me, I heard what I would describe as an adult male voice say, "Karl." And I turned around, and there's no one there. And so I looked at Ava, the lady I was talking to, and said, "Did you just hear something?" And I didn't set it up so she could go, "Oh, yeah, that's what I heard." I said, "Did you hear something?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "What did you hear?" And she said, "I heard someone say your name." I said, "Okay, who?"
Oh, my gosh.
And she looked around, and she said, "There's no one here but you and me." And I said, "Exactly."
Whoa, that's crazy, yeah.
But she is one of the paranormal tour guides, so she has had a lot of experience where the spirits, the ghosts in the castle have talked to her. But that's my only experience. So now I can't say just because the ghosts don't talk to me, because
now you've struck up a friendship here.
they said my name.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, good. So how was the Halloween function? Was it
was great.
Well attended?
It was well attended. It was not what we have been doing, where the whole castle was one giant haunted house.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't take guests in the castle this year, but we had a fabulous masquerade ball in one of it's called a visitor center, which is just kind of like a big warehouse-like room.
Yeah.
But we had a fantastic masquerade ball, and we did a haunted trail around the grounds of the castle.
Oh, wow.
That was very well received by all the people who came up. They really enjoyed it, had a great time.
So what plans do you have for the future? Can you share that with us at all?
Well, now that we own it,
Yeah.
we have a lot of work to do to preserve it and rehabilitate the building, arrest the decay. At this point, we have one volunteer who's made it his personal mission to replace all of the broken and missing windows in the castle. There's 246 windows in the castle. Dave has rehabilitated just over 200 of those 246 windows now.
Wow.
All by himself.
Wow, that's amazing.
So if you saw some older pictures of the castle, say 10 years ago, a lot of the windows were just boarded up or just completely missing. Well, we're about 75% or better towards replacing all the windows. Number one, that's aesthetic. Number two, it keeps the weather out of the castle.
Yes, absolutely.
The weather is what has damaged the castle so much, because they took the roof off in 1960, and it stood there with no roof until the late 1990s.
I've read that, yeah.
Which let the rain come in, which is what
What a
caused the
shame.
structural damage on the inside that we have to work through.
Yeah. I've read the history on the castle, I'm sure like most people have, and it's just really eerie, the things that happen there. Really heartbreaking. I mean, just with being the kids, the boys' school and boys' prison.
It was not what you'd call a life of a bowl of cherries there at the Preston Castle.
And a lot of those kids were kids of victims of circumstance.
Yes.
They weren't
Some
bad
of them
kids.
were indeed bad kids, criminals. Some of them back in the 1890s, early 1900s were simply homeless and without a parent or guardian.
Yeah, or the parents couldn't afford to feed them.
Or they couldn't afford to feed them, so they turned them over to the state.
Yeah.
Even though the castle is what its history is what it is, the goal was to provide each boy the equivalent of a high school education by the time they left, and take them up through the apprentice level in at least 2 trades.
Right.
Life was still a bit harsh at the castle, but keep in mind, prior to the castle, all of those youths were incarcerated in San Quentin or Folsom State Prison with the adult inmates.
Oh, wow.
Which
I didn't think about that. Okay.
Was what they did before Preston Castle. That was California's entering what they called the Youth Corrections Reform Movement in the 1890s. A bunch of places like Preston sprung up around the United States. In fact, Preston Castle was modeled directly after an institution in Red Wing, Minnesota, that is still there.
So it actually was a step up compared to
what they were doing. It was a huge improvement for the lives of youth in the correction system in California.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't hear that part. Yeah.
One can imagine, if you were a youthful offender in Folsom or San Quentin with the adult inmates, how much you would be preyed upon and victimized.
Oh, gosh. Absolutely. Traumatized. Yeah. And be abused. Yeah. Well, we only have about 30 seconds left. Is there anything anything we didn't touch on you want to share?
Since we're pretty much closed for this year, on December 13th, we are going to be open for the last set of tours for 2014, and then we're planning our 2015 calendar.
Okay, good. Well, I'm so happy to hear that you guys are on your own now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have great plans for the future, and good luck with that.
Do.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so good. Thank you.